Hello everybody, here's Muhammad Imran. You're learning linguistics and literature with Imran. Today we are with another lecture in the subject semantics, and we will be discussing the topic ambiguity. Ambiguity generally means the state of having more than one possible meaning. So this more than one possible meaning can be through a word or it can be through a structure. So technically we call it lexical and structural ambiguity. So sometimes ambiguity arises, right, through a lexeme, and sometimes ambiguity arises through a structure, right, syntactic structure. Let's begin our today's lecture and learn lexical and structural ambiguity in language. So what is ambiguity? The process of making more than one meaning. So when a structure gives more than one meaning or a lexeme gives more than one meaning, we call that structure as ambiguous structure, or we call that word as ambiguous word, right? So here we have an example of lexical ambiguity. For example, if I say I saw bats, so bat can mean a piece of wood with a hand, like here we have, this is a bat, or these are bats, right? Or a bat or bats can also mean an animal like a mouse with wings. So here we have plural, bats, and here we have plural, bats. So if you tell someone that I saw bats, so a person may perceive it, animals like mice, right, with wings. Or a person may perceive, right, like pieces of wood with hands, right? So here we have example of lexical ambiguity, and that is the word or lexeme bats. Now here we have types of ambiguity. So we can have lexical ambiguity or we can have structural ambiguity. As I told you earlier, that lexical ambiguity arises through the use of word or when a word has more than one possible meaning. This is called lexical ambiguity. Or when a structure, syntactic structure, has more than one possible meaning, we call it structural ambiguity. Let's explain one by one in detail. Explanation of lexical ambiguity. Lexical ambiguity is the presence of two or more possible meaning for a single word, or when a single word can have more than one meaning, we call it lexical ambiguity. For example, the detective examined the log. In this sentence, we have a lexical item, and that is log. Or we have a word log, which has more than one possible meaning. For example, a log can mean a thick piece of wood that is cut or fallen from a tree. Or a log can also mean an official record, right, of an event during a particular period of time. So a log can mean an official record, or a log can mean a piece of wood. So here a person may think, okay, that what kind of meaning should I attach to the word log? The detective examined the log. So what kind of log that the detective examined? A thick piece of wood or an official record? So that is the example of lexical ambiguity. Some more examples of lexical ambiguity. I went to the bank. So which bank? Bank has also two meanings. Whether you went to a financial bank or you went to a river bank. Which one, right? So this is also example of lexical ambiguity. Or flying planes can be dangerous. Again, here we have the word flying planes. one meaning of flying plane that if you fly a plane, it can be dangerous. Or the second meaning of flying plane, okay, whenever you see that a plane that is flying, it can be also dangerous, right? So one is that you fly the plane, and in another case you do not fly the plane, you just look at the plane and you say that flying plane can be dangerous, it can be crash, right? The third example is the boy carries the light box. Now, light box is a lexical item, an example of lexical ambiguity. So, light box can mean, okay, which is not heavy, right? Which is light one, light box, right? Not heavy, the opposite of heavy is light. And light box can also mean, okay, which something like brights, right? Or which has the capacity to be lighted, right? So light means something that is easy to be lifted, or something or a device that produces light. So light box, it has also more than one possible meaning. I hope you got it. On this slide, we will define structural ambiguity. When the arrangement of words gives rise to more than one interpretation, we call it structural ambiguity. Or when ambiguity arises from the structure of a sentence, we call it structural ambiguity. Types of structural ambiguity. So we have two types of structural ambiguity. First, surface structure ambiguity, and second, deep structure ambiguity. First, we will discuss surface structural ambiguity. So what is a surface structural ambiguity? When the words can be grouped into different ways, so you have choice. You can group the words in different ways, and grouping the words into different ways will give rise to surface structural ambiguity. For example, as in hot soup and pies. So here we have ambiguity, and that is surface structural ambiguity. When somebody says hot soup and pies, so whether just the soup is hot or not, the soup and the pies both are hot. You can see here hot soup and pies. So one may think that only the soup is hot while the pies are not hot. And someone may think that both are hot, right? Soup is also hot and pies are also hot, right? So this is example of surface structural ambiguity. Or for example, you give example that I saw an old man and a woman in the park. So someone may think that you saw an old man and a woman, so both were old, or not just a man was old but woman was not. You see, I saw an old man and a woman in the park. So a woman may not be old, only a man may be old. Or somebody can perceive that both are old, because when you say that I saw an old man and a woman in the park, right? So you are grouping the words in such a way which give rise to ambiguity, and that is surface structure ambiguity, right? On this slide, we will discuss deep structural ambiguity. So what is a deep structural ambiguity? When the source of ambiguity is less easily identified. So on the previous slide, that like here, it was easily to identify that hot soup and pies. So you may say that only soup is hot, or you may say that both are hot. So that is easily identified. But here in deep structural ambiguity, when the source of ambiguity is less easily identified. For example, the duck was ready to eat. So what do you think? That on the one hand, we can say that a duck which is cooked, right? And you're going to eat the duck. And on the other hand, you say that the duck, a live duck, right, is ready to eat. So the duck was ready to eat. A live duck, right? Like animal was ready to eat or to feed itself. And on the other hand, a person want to feed himself or herself, right? So the duck was ready to eat. You have in front of yourself in plate a duck and you want to eat it, right? Let me give you another example and you'll be more clear now. The chicken is ready to eat. So we have a live chicken and the chicken wants to feed itself. And on the other hand, there is a cooked chicken, right, in plate, and that's for you, and you want to eat the chicken. So on the one hand, we have a cooked chicken, right, and that's as a food you're eating. And on the other hand, we have a live chicken, and the chicken wants to feed itself. So the chicken is ready to eat. So chicken, right? A live chicken. And the chicken is ready to eat. In front of you, there is a chicken. So again, here we have a structural ambiguity, and that is the example of deep structural ambiguity. So that is not like easily to identify that which chicken you're talking about. You are led up the garden path. So garden path as an idiom, it means that you perceive things wrongly, right? Or you are mistaken because you only listen to the first meaning of a structure while you leave the second one. So others argue that a brief consideration of more than one interpretation, even though hearer may not realize they are doing this. So sometimes even research says sometimes that you do not realize, right, that what they are doing because they are leaving the second interpretation of a lexical ambiguity. So when you read a structure, you should think that what kind of meaning is attached, right, by the writer or the person who are saying this structure, right? So you have to dig it deeply, right, and find out the exact interpretation, right? But because the structure will be ambiguous one. So thank you so much. It was all about what is ambiguity, and we discussed lexical ambiguity, and we also talk about structural ambiguity. And in structural ambiguity, we talked about surface structural ambiguity and deep structural ambiguity. So keep watching and enjoy learning with Muhammad Ibran. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel and provide your valuable feedback.